Hello, welcome to this episode of Electronic Cafe Celebrates. In this episode, we're looking at a massive album, Invisible Touch, the 13th studio album by Genesis. It was released in the 6th of June in 86. I said it's massive. I mean, it was a worldwide success. It reached number 1 in the UK, number 3 in the US Billboard 200. It remains to this day the band's biggest selling album after it's certified multi-platinum. Over 1.2 million copies sold in the UK, 6 million copies sold in the US. And they became the first band and foreign act to have 5 singles from one album. Reached the top 5 in the US Billboard 100. I mean, that is just ridiculous. Invisible Touch being their first and only song from that album, and their only song to reach number 1 in the charts.
Invisible Touch saw Genesis reach a commercial peak with a highly electronic sound built around shimmering synths, punchy drum machines and big pop choruses. It was an album out at the same time as frontman Phil Collins was juggling his work with Genesis with a stratospherically successful solo career, inevitably prompting rumours of friction within the group, although the songwriting remained a collaborative effort with Tony Banks and Mike Rutherford.
The album did receive mixed reviews upon its release, and retrospectively, with its more pop-orientated approach and perceived similarities to what Phil Collins was doing from a solo perspective,
the album delivered an incredible run of 5 worldwide hit singles: Invisible Touch, Land of Confusion, Tonight, 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 In Too Deep and Throwing It All Away, proving they could dominate radio as convincingly as they once dominated the progressive rock charts.
But she crawls under your skin, you never quite the same. And now I know she's got something you just can't trust, and it's something mysterious. And now it seems I'm falling for her. She seems to have an invisible touch. She reaches in and grabs right hold of you.
the group's approach to this was a little bit different. Phil Collins actually used a Simmons drum kit, and the approach to writing the sessions, they kind of had a greater sense of confidence as they become such a big live act in the US and reached a new level of commercial success worldwide. And as with what they did with their previous album called Genesis, they entered the studio with no preconceived ideas and developed songs from just recording, jamming and improvisations. Sometimes the best stuff happens that way.
The record was supported by the enormous Invisible Touch tour, a massive global trek that filled arenas and stadiums around the world and cemented Genesis as one of the biggest live acts of the decade, a show that I was fortunate enough to see at Wembley Stadium.
But the album did receive a mixed reaction from music critics. Rolling Stone said that every tune is carefully pruned so that each flourish delivers not an instrumental epiphany but a solid hook. I think a lot of that was down to Tony Banks, who had his amazing synth style. It never seemed more appropriate than for this album. It's his keyboards that set the mood for things like In the Glow of the Night and keep that real tension in Tonight, Tonight, Tonight. Someone on the Chicago Tribune wasn't as impressed. He was saying that the album had none of the inventiveness or illumination of power of former Genesis singer Peter Gabriel's albums. So, totally different projects. Yes, I know Gabriel was in Genesis, and do I prefer that form of Genesis? Yes. Do I prefer the earlier stuff generically? Yes.
Look, there's a certain snobbery about this album. The album's glossy electronic production and the pop focus felt like a long way from the band's progressive roots, and because Genesis was still widely perceived as a serious prog band. Yet, looked at without all that baggage, Invisible Touch is a confident, hook-laden pop album that captured Genesis at the absolute height of their mainstream power. Be it a great album or a forbidden pleasure, as one of the biggest electronic albums from 1986, it just can't be overlooked. Go check out the instrumental track, The Brazilian.
But you can't ignore this album. There's a reason it sold 7 or 8 million copies around the world. So if you haven't heard it, check out Invisible Touch by Genesis. 40 years old this year. Wow.
Can't you see what you are doing to me? Can't you see what you have done? As I try to pass another long and you, but